Reborn at 18, the vicious mother-in-law was blocking the main room of my house. The moment she opened her mouth, it was another 10 yuan added to the bride price, plus 10 gene of pork. My parents were pressured into silence. She never imagined that I was no longer that gullible young fool she could manipulate. July 1959, major heat, evening. I woke up groggily, hearing cicadas screeching at the top of their lungs by my ear, while the arguing in the room was even fiercer. If the bride price isn't increased, I'll go to the security team and report Chang Kun for hooliganism. He's just a country boy, can't get state grain rations, and isn't worthy of my meru. The bride price must be increased. The 8 yuan was already paid, and now you still want more. Does that sound good if word gets out? This is my mother's voice. I wanted to shout, but my throat felt blocked, and no sound would come out. My whole body felt as heavy as if it were pinned down by stones. Only my neck could barely turn. A Kong bed, blackened roof beams, and yellowed newspapers pasted on the wall. Traditional Chinese characters, blurry small print. Wasn't this the old house I had dreamed of day and night? Mother Chang Kun, go ask around. My Meru is the most outstanding girl in all these villages. Chang Kun lost his job, so of course you'll have to make up for it in the bride price. Another 10 yuan added to the bride price, and 10 gene of pork. Even marrying off a daughter isn't selling her like this. My father, Chang Dashan, was trembling with anger. The memories came flooding back all at once. In 1959, I was 18. I was an apprentice at a mold factory in the city, and my household registration was about to be transferred into the city. Everyone in the surrounding villages envied me. Chin Meru from neighboring Chin family village took the initiative to attach herself to me for marriage, and accepted the 8 yuan bride price. But I was fired from the factory, and the Chin family regretted it. Yet they didn't dare break off the engagement. If they did, Chin Meru's reputation would be ruined. So they came up with a nasty trick to raise the bride price. 18 yuan, plus 10 gene of pork. That price was enough to get 7 or 8 rural brides. In my previous life, I was bewitched by Chin Meru's pretty face, and threatened my parents that I would marry no one but her. My father crouched in the mountains for 4 days and used a battered old shotgun to kill a small wild boar. He even fractured his shin in a fall before he finally scraped together the bride price. Chin Meru really was beautiful and gentle, and I lived comfortably for a few months. But in 1960, during the lean season, she swept away all the family's grain and money and fled to the northeast with her natal family. I chased after her all the way there and found nothing. When I came back, my mother had already starved to death. My father and my 3-year-old little sister didn't survive that winter either. My family was destroyed and everyone was dead. Now I'm back. The person talking outside was that vicious mother-in-law from my previous life, Shi Zhenxiang. Forcing myself up from the Kong, I stepped onto the muddy floor and rushed out of the west room. My mother, Lu Meifan, was leaning against the stove, her face full of exhaustion. My father stood beside her with gritted teeth. Across from them, Shi Zhenxiang stood with her hands on her hips, rolling her eyes. Oh, Chang Kun is out. My Meru marrying you is your good fortune. Now that you've lost your job, adding a bit more to the bride price is only fair, right? Her face was smug. She had long since had Chin Meru sound me out about this condition of raising the bride price, telling me to come home and pressure my parents. Looking at that hateful face of hers, my anger shot straight to my head. I charged over and slapped her 3 times right away. Smack, smack, smack. Shi Zhenxiang was stunned, clutching her face with wide eyes. I followed up with a kick straight to her chest, sending her flying 3 or 4 meters before she crashed onto the threshold. You plague-ridden. She opened her mouth to curse. You old hag. Try cursing one more time. Go ahead and report me for hooliganism. Let's see if anyone will still want Chin Meru then. In those days, a girl's chastity and reputation meant more than heaven. The Chin family didn't dare report it at all. My parents were dumbfounded and quickly grabbed hold of me. Struggling, I kicked her in the shin again. The hatred from my past life couldn't be wiped away by just this little. If my parents hadn't stopped me, I really could have killed her. When Shi Zhenxiang met my gaze, she shuddered in fright. That look was like I was going to devour her alive. She scrambled up and rampaged, shouting as she ran. Just you wait, you old woman. I picked up a broken piece of glass in the yard and chased after her. She was so scared she didn't dare look back and vanished in a flash. My mother ran up and grabbed me. Xiaoquan, what's wrong with you? I turned to look at her haggard face. I hadn't seen it in over 60 years. Tears welled up all at once, and I hugged her and cried. My mother was at a loss and patted my shoulder. There, you're a grown young man now, and you're still crying. My father snorted, holding his tobacco pipe. So you still know how to cry? You got fired, and I haven't even settled the score with you yet." I looked up at his dark face. "Dad." The tears wouldn't stop. In my past life, for the sake of my marriage, my father had squatted on the mountain for 3 days and 4 nights, risking his life. His shin bone cracked, and it hurt whenever the weather turned cloudy or rainy. "Why did you hit Shirjinxiang? Weren't you still shouting the other day that you wouldn't marry anyone but Qin Meru?" My father waved his tobacco pipe, making as if to knock me. "Exactly. Shirjinxiang got beaten up. How could she possibly let it go?" My mother poked my forehead. "What if she really reports you for hooliganism?" I put my arms around my parents' shoulders. "Dad, Mom, her family wouldn't dare report it. If they do, Qin Meru's reputation will be ruined. With the Qin family acting like this time it's raising the bride price. Next time, it'll be something else. I won't marry into a family like that." My mother nodded and let out a sigh of relief. "Right, this family really is no good. We can't afford to become in-laws with them." I looked at Mom on my left and Dad on my right and felt truly happy. "Dad, Mom, where are little sis and the others? They went to catch birds and monkeys, always crying that they want meat." My mother shot me a look. My face grew hot. In my past life, when I worked in the city, when I got paid, I only satisfied my own cravings and never thought about the family. After losing my job, I just lay around and never thought about whether there was enough food at home. My younger sisters were all under 10 and went out every day to dig wild vegetables, and I never felt sorry for them. Now, I'm going to make sure my family gets enough to eat. "Dad, Mom, I'll figure out the food for this family." I was immature before, but I won't be anymore. Both my parents were stunned. They had never heard me say anything like this before. The corners of my father's mouth lifted slightly. "It's enough that you have the heart for it. No household has enough to eat. What can a kid like you do?" Even so, his expression softened quite a bit. A voice came from outside the yard. "Dad, Mom, we're back." 3 little girls came into the yard one after another. Second sister Changqing, 10 years old. Third sister Changmu, 8 years old. Little sister Changxiu, 3 years old. They were filthy all over, wearing baggy clothes covered in patch upon patch. One look, and you could tell they were my old clothes passed down to them. They had sleeve covers on their arms to keep the clothes from wearing out. My eyes grew moist again. In my past life, little sister would be gone by this time next year. Second sister and third sister were taken away by eldest sister and raised through hardship. They came back to the old house every week to help me wash and clean and keep me company. If it weren't for them, I wouldn't have been able to hold on long ago. I stepped forward and picked up little sister. Her little hands were full of mud, and she was as skinny as chicken claws. "Big brother, Carrie," she opened her little hands. I held her and played airplane with her, and the little girl giggled nonstop. Changqing and Changmu were both stunned. What's gotten into Big Brother today? In all the days since he came home after being fired, he hadn't said much or shown a smile. All right, it's getting dark soon, and there are mosquitoes outside." My mother called us into the house. Speaking of mosquitoes, I already had several bites on my legs. The 4 children were standing together, but the mosquitoes kept picking me to bite. Smack! I killed a big black mosquito that was sucking blood with one slap, and my hand was covered in blood. Suddenly, a voice sounded in my head. Ding! Capture system successfully activated. This system is the capture system. Any capture can increase the host's sensing level toward prey. Current mosquito captures, 1 out of 100. After a successful capture, you can receive a reward. I froze. Rebirth, and it even comes with a system? System, what can you do? No response. How about introducing yourself? Still no response. Got it. This system can't converse. Smack. 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 I started swatting at the mosquitoes. Captured mosquitoes 40 out of 100. Captured mosquitoes 66 out of 100. Captured mosquitoes 88 out of 100. The 3 little girls watched me swatting mosquitoes back and forth, completely dumbfounded. Little sister sniffled. "Big brother, are mosquitoes tasty? You definitely can't eat those. In Africa, there's a kind of mosquito meat patty, pure high protein, but no matter how hungry I am, I wouldn't dare touch that stuff." With the final slap, ding. Captured mosquitoes 100 out of 100. Reward obtained, 10 mosquito coils. Reward items can be stored in temporary space. The current host can sense prey under 20 gene within a range of 100 meters. I closed my eyes and sensed the mosquitoes, insects, and moths flying around in the yard. Their positions were perfectly clear. Within a 100-meter radius, I could sense all living things under 10 gene. But aside from mosquitoes, bugs, and moths, there was nothing else. These days, even the rats in the village have starved to death. If there aren't any in the village, could there still be none outside the village? "Dad, Mom, I'm going to catch some cicadas to bring back and eat." Cicadas are just cicadas. Really? I want to go too. Changqing's eyes lit up. The cicadas are so high up, How are you going to catch them? She had just taken little sister to the small woods at the village entrance to pick up cicada nymphs, but hadn't found a single one. Big brother has a way. It's getting dark, you two shouldn't go. I'm not afraid of the dark. Xiaomu, are you afraid? Not afraid. Changmu also looked at me eagerly. Take little sister with you, and don't let her climb trees. Xiaoer stays home, you are not allowed to go. My mother instructed. Don't worry, Mom, we won't climb trees. You can only catch a few by climbing trees, and it's not worth the effort. I walked into the main room and fished out the matches from under the stove. Chongqing was already tugging my sleeve and pulling me outside. Let's go, big brother, it's about to get dark. Slow down, wait for Xiaomu. Cicadas are easiest to catch after dark. Keep an eye on your little sister. My mother shouted from behind. Big brother, how are we going to catch them? It's almost dark already, I can barely see. Chongqing sniffled, swallowing her drool. Whenever we saw branches or dry leaves on the road, we picked them up. We headed all the way toward the small woods at the village entrance. The small woods were by the river, with dozens of willow trees. The sun had set, and the moonlight was dim. The crows and cicadas were taking advantage of the last bit of light, chirping merrily. They didn't know the end was near. You two go gather dry grass and leaves for kindling, and drag over the big branches too. The two little ones went off to collect them. I snapped off some low willow branches. The three siblings spread the dry grass and leaves in the middle of the woods and stacked branches on top. I struck a match and lit it. With the evening breeze blowing, the flames leaped up, and the whole pile of branches turned into a big bonfire. It was completely dark now, and the bonfire had become the only light source in the woods. I activated my sensing. How many cicadas were on each tree, and on which branch fork they were, all of it was crystal clear. Xiaoqing, Xiaomu, when you see a cicada, grab it, tear off its wings, and throw it aside. Don't get too close to the fire. I climbed up the big tree beside us, straddled a branch fork, grabbed the branches with both hands, and shook hard. Startled, the cicadas all took flight. They were drawn to the light, and all flew toward the bonfire. But once they got near the fire, they were afraid of the heat, so they flopped around wildly on the ground. Big brother. The cicadas flew down by themselves. The two little girls shouted excitedly. Hurry and catch them. Ha! Once you catch one, tear off its wings and toss it into a pile. I jumped down to help too. I pinched a cicada and yanked off its wings, and a stream of liquid squirted out from behind its butt. It reminded me of how, when I was little, my mother scared me by saying that if a cicada peed in your eyes, you'd go blind. Big brother, you're amazing. So many cicadas. Chongqing hurriedly pinned one down, her eyes shining. Watch out for the claws, it hurts quite a bit if they grab you. Hom. Changmu kept her head down, busily working away. We had caught just about all the cicadas on the ground, so I climbed another tree and shook the branches again. Another batch fluttered down by the fire. Cicadas love sucking willow sap the most, and there are quite a few on every tree in this grove. You two keep count of how many you've caught yourselves. I shouted from the tree. I caught 5. I got 4. Haha, another batch came down. Hurry, we can't catch them all. There was a bit of wind on this summer night, and it wasn't as hot as during the day. But the three of us were just too busy, and before long we were sweating all over. Big brother, you just shake the trees, and the two of us will catch them. That'll be faster. Chongqing was half sprawled on the ground, pinning down cicadas, grinning so hard the corners of her mouth twisted. I shook all the dozen or so trees by the fire once through. Cicadas were fluttering all over the ground beside the fire. Big brother, come help. Some of them have even flopped into the fire. Chongqing's hands were busy catching them, and her mouth never stopped either. Changmu didn't say a word, but an unconscious smile tugged at her face as she tore off the wings. The three of us stayed busy for nearly an hour. Big brother, start another fire over there. There are still so many trees. Chongqing still wanted more. Forget it, we've caught more than enough tonight, and we still don't even know how to carry them back. How many did you catch? I caught 64. I caught 52. Chongqing and Changmu rushed to report first. I caught 49, so that's 165 in total. We can have a really good meal when we get back. A smile appeared on Chang Kun's face. Wow, big brother, you're amazing. Chongqing jumped and bounced around. Before this, Wang Xiaohua from the village had caught 2 cicadas, roasted them, and held them in her hands, reluctant to eat them, making her crave them for a long time. Just thinking of that aroma was already making drool spill from the corner of her mouth. Big brother is amazing. Changmu was overjoyed too. It had been a long time since she had eaten meat. Cicadas are really fragrant when roasted, no worse than pork. Now that Big Brother had brought her to catch so many cicadas, she was even afraid they wouldn't be able to finish them all. Chang Kun looked around, but there was nothing that could hold all these cicadas. Left with no choice, he could only take off his tattered shirt and scoop all the cicadas on the ground into it. The branches in the fire were almost burned out, and Chang Wei held a branch from nearby and poked at the fire. He pulled out 6 cicadas from inside. They had already been burned pitch black, and their legs and claws had all been burned off. Here, just 6, 3 for each of you. Eat them, and then we'll go home. Smells so good. Thank you, big brother. Thank you, big brother. The 2 little ones were both drooling. The aroma of this protein being roasted was simply too enticing. It's a pity there are still so many trees over there. There must be lots more on them. Chongqing chewed on a cicada, still not quite satisfied with tonight's haul. If you want to eat more, we'll come again tomorrow. It's too late. Mother will be worried. Chang Kun comforted his second younger sister. Thank you, big brother. Chang Kun laughed. His 2 little sisters sure said, thank you, big brother, quite smoothly. If they were living in a later age, she'd be great material for being a streamer. At this moment, in the Chang family home, their father, Xiao Kun, seems to have changed a lot today. Isn't that so? Those few hits he gave Shi Jinxiang even gave me a scare. And now he's taken his younger sisters out to catch cicadas. How does it feel like he suddenly became sensible? He's a son after all. Sooner or later he'll grow up. Chang Dashan clicked his pipe bowl. He couldn't figure out how his son had changed so much all of a sudden, and for a moment he was a little unaccustomed to it. My son, of course he's outstanding. Lu Meifan held her head high, her face full of pride. Your son. Chang Dashan secretly glared at Lu Meifan and muttered softly. Wonder who it was that was crying the other day, saying she'd given birth to a burden. Chang Kun slowly walked home with his 2 younger sisters. As soon as they reached the doorway, the 2 girls rushed into the yard like the wind and saw Lu Meifan sitting on the threshold of the main room waiting for them. Before the sisters could even speak, Lu Meifan scolded them. Why were you gone so long? Look at you 2, what did you eat? Your mouths are all black. The 2 younger sisters had eaten roasted burnt cicadas, and after finishing them, they even licked their lips with their tongues, leaving their mouths covered in black ash. Big brother also caught lots of cicadas. Mom, roast them for us to eat. Chongqing had eaten 2 cicadas on the way and felt even more greedy for them. Only then did Lu Meifan notice that Chang Kun was holding his shirt in his hands, with bursts of cicada chirping coming from inside. How many did you catch? You were busy until so late. Chang Dashan also walked into the main room. He didn't think much of it and assumed they had only caught 10 or 8 for the little girls to satisfy their craving. Big brother, how many was it again? I forgot the number we counted just now. Chongqing tilted her head to look at big brother. 165. And we even ate 6. Changmu blurted out the answer. Since they had caught so many tonight, she had been thinking about that number the whole time. Lu Meifan and Chang Dashan were both stunned. That many? In just such a short while, you caught that many? Lu Meifan reached out and grabbed the shirt from Chongqing's hands. She gently untied it and looked inside, and it was packed full of cicadas. Oh my son is really capable. Chang Dashan also widened his eyes as he looked. So many cicadas were enough for the little ones at home to have a really good meal. Their father, start the fire and roast some for our son and daughters to eat. With a grand wave of her hand, Lu Meifan handed the task to the old man. I'll do it. With cicadas to eat, Chongqing was especially eager to help. She added water and lit the fire at the stove. Before long, the water in the pot was boiling. No more firewood was added to the firebox, and the remaining embers still carried a few glowing sparks. Lu Meifan squeezed Chongqing aside, used the fire poker to push apart the soft embers, grabbed a handful of cicadas, gently put them into the firebox, then covered them with a thick layer of embers. As the old saying goes, children who play with fire wet the bed, so Lu Meifan would not allow Chongqing to poke at the pile of embers with sparks in it. Chongqing simply squatted by the firebox, lowering her head from time to peek inside. As soon as she caught a whiff of the aroma, she impatiently snatched the fire poker, wanting to rake out the cicadas. Lu Meifan gave Chongqing an annoyed smack. Wait, they're not cooked yet. Chongqing didn't get angry either, just waited with a grin to eat, her nose twitching as she sniffed the aroma wafting from the firebox. Chang Kun stood by the doorframe, watching this scene, feeling as if he had drunk century-old liquor, lightheaded and almost intoxicated. In his previous life, this kind of warm scene with the whole family together neatly could only appear in dreams. Now that the dream had become reality, he grinned foolishly. Third sister Changmu was a little sleepy, leaning against Chang Kun with her head bobbing as she wanted to fall asleep, yet she couldn't bear to miss the cicadas that were almost ready. All right, they're done. Take them out slowly, don't dig out the ash. By now the embers had cooled. Hearing the order, Chang Qing immediately used the fire poker to scrape through the ashes, slowly poking the cicadas out of the firebox one by one. Seeing this, Chang Mu also perked up. Every time second sister poked out a cicada, she picked it up and lightly tapped it against the ground a few times to shake off the plant ash clinging to it. The two sisters worked very well together. In less than a minute, they had dug all the cicadas out of the stove. They counted them, and there were exactly 22. The stove wasn't big, so it could only hold a little over 20 cicadas at a time. After discussing it, each of them got 11. It smells so good, even better than the ones we ate in the woods just now. Yeah, second sister, big brother is amazing. Stop flattering him and ask whether the cicadas should be for mom and dad to taste first. Chang Kun signaled to the two little ones with his eyes. Mom, you eat. Chang Qing had always been good at reading the room, so she quickly picked up a cicada, pretended to blow on it, and stuffed it into her mother's mouth. Smiling, she asked, Mom, isn't it fragrant? It's tasty. You eat, good girl. Lu Meifan beamed after being fed by her daughter, feeling delighted inside. Dad, eat a cicada. Not to be outdone, Chang Mu stuffed a glossy, crispy jianyaoer to her father. Hey, good girl, you eat quickly. Chang Dashan felt deeply gratified. He saw that it was Chang Wei who had signaled to the two sisters with his eyes, and he was very pleased with his son's change. After you finish eating, hurry and go to sleep. Lu Meifan urged Chang Qing and Chang Mu to go to bed. It was already quite late. At this hour normally, the little girls would have long been asleep. All right then. Third sister Chang Mu had been sleepy for a while already, crunching on a cicada in her mouth. Holding the remaining few cicadas in her hands as she ran to the small heated brick bed in the east room to get ready for sleep. There were 2 rooms in the east wing. Dad, Mom, and little sister slept in the larger room. On the far east side, there was also a small room where second sister and third sister slept together on the small heated brick bed inside. Just then, the system's notification sound finally arrived. Ding. Captured cicadas 100/100. Reward obtained. 1 gene of deep-fried golden cicadas. The current host can sense prey weighing under 40 gene within a range of 150 meters. Chang Kun was delighted. The system had given another reward. Deep-fried golden cicadas. Good stuff. But right now he absolutely couldn't take them out for his parents to eat. There was no way to explain where they came from. These days, what family would be willing to deep-fry this to eat? Even people in the city who ate state-supplied grain got only 2 liang of oil per adult each month. Not to mention frying golden cicadas. Even when cooking vegetables, they could only dip chopsticks into the oil jar, swish the chopsticks around in the pot, and count that as adding oil. It truly was oil used by the drop. Not to mention the countryside. Rural people basically didn't even get to use an oil jar. For nearly half a year, there hadn't been a trace of oil in the gruel they cooked. Thinking of this, Chang Kun said, Mom, roast another batch of jianyaoer in the stove. You and Dad should eat some too. I'll catch more tomorrow night. Lu Meifan agreed with a smile. Her son had caught so many, so he surely had some trick to it, and she no longer needed to think about saving them for the children to eat. Chang Kun slowly walked toward the small room on the east side. The small room was pitch black, and the only sound was the crunching of the 2 younger sisters chewing cicadas. Especially Chang Qing. While chewing, she was even humming through her nose, like a little pig eating. Finished eating. I really want to eat one more. I'm done too. The 2 younger sisters smacked their lips, savoring the charred fragrance of the cicadas. It had been a very, very long time since they had eaten such a delicacy. Every day they ate wild vegetable gruel, and their taste buds were almost degenerating from it. Chang Kun moved closer to the small heated brick bed and took out 2 deep-fried golden cicadas from the temporary space. Second sister, third sister, open your mouths. There are still cicadas here. Big brother is the best. Thank you, big brother. Chang Qing and Chang Mu opened their mouths, waiting for big brother to feed them. Chang Kun stuffed the golden cicadas into their mouths and warned them, eat quickly, no talking. Chang Qing took a bite of the fried golden cicada, her eyes widening into perfect circles, her face full of astonishment. This is just too fragrant, way tastier than those roasted birds. So good, so delicious. She had long forgotten her eldest brother's warning not to talk. Beside her, Chang Mu didn't say a word. The golden cicada had already been chewed to pieces, but she still couldn't bear to swallow it, holding it in her mouth and savoring the taste. Big brother, what is this? Chang Qing bounced up on the Kong and grabbed Chang Kun's arm. Chill, don't talk. Finish eating and go to sleep. Don't tell anyone. Big brother, I still want more. Me too. Chang Mu always spoke a step slower than her second sister. There's no more. Go to sleep. Chang Kun rubbed the little heads of his two younger sisters. Their stomachs had gone without any oil for years, and if they suddenly ate too much greasy food, he was afraid their intestines and stomachs wouldn't be able to handle it. So he only gave each of them one fried golden cicada to taste. Chang Kun then walked toward the big Kong in the east room. By the faint starlight coming through the window, he saw his 3-year-old little sister, Chang Xiao, lying sprawled out on the Kong, with drool running down to her chin. He quietly watched Chang Xiao like this, stroking his little sister's head. In his previous life, it would be next year when his little sister, from malnutrition, would swell from hunger and eventually die a miserable death. At the thought of this, Chang Kun's heart clenched with pain. By the stove, Lu Meifan stirred the cicadas in the firebox and said softly to Chang Dashan, "It feels like our son was pretty good today, even knowing to care for his younger sisters." Of course, they're his own sisters. How could he not care for them? Chang Dashan looked as if it were only natural. He went out for a little while tonight and caught so many G-birds. My son is really capable. Lu Meifan was just making conversation, all of it praising her own son. It's only been one day, don't praise him too early. The old Chang Kun had really been quite outrageous, and now that his son was grown, as a father he couldn't exactly beat him anymore. Seeing Chang Kun's changes now, although Chang Dashan spoke tough, his heart was full of relief. It was just that Chang Kun's sudden change was a bit too great, and both Lu Meifan and Chang Dashan were somewhat unaccustomed to it. "Xiao Kun, the cicadas are ready, come out and eat." Lu Meifan called softly. Chang Kun shared the cicadas with his parents and ate them together. Lu Meifan kept nodding as she ate. "You know, these G-birds really are fragrant. Every day while digging wild vegetables, we'd hear them chirping noisily in the trees, but even if we wanted to catch a few to eat, we couldn't reach them." After chatting for a while, Chang Kun returned to his own small Kong in the west room, lying on the bed thinking about his system. To get system rewards, he had to capture prey, and his family just happened to need meat to supplement their nutrition. Tomorrow, he'd go take a look at the foot of the mountain and see what he could catch, to give his parents and younger sisters an extra dish. Thinking this, he drifted off to sleep in a haze. Meanwhile, in Qin family village, in Qin Meru's home, her father, that little beast from their family, dared to hit me. Tomorrow you go and hit him back for me. Shi Jinxiang was full of resentment, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. Look at you, asking such a high bride price. No wonder they got mad. How am I supposed to hit him back for you? Chang Kun's father is the village militia captain, and the father-in-law of the family his eldest daughter married into is the captain of the commune militia security team. Just look at you, not understanding anything and spouting nonsense. What? Do you really want to report Chang Kun for hooliganism? Never mind whether you'd win the case or not. Even if you did, how would your daughter ever get married afterward? What utter bullshit. Qin Jianren turned over and sat up. He lit a pipe and took a few puffs, fell silent for a while, then came up with an idea. Tomorrow, have Meru go to the Chang family to take a look and ask what exactly that boy Chang means. If the bride price won't work, then lowering it a little is fine too, but we absolutely can't break off the engagement. If we do, we'll lose all our face. Go to sleep. You keep causing me trouble all day long. Shi Jinxiang, looking unconvinced and resentful, ground her teeth and kept muttering on, cursing under her breath. Chang Kun didn't sleep well all night, drifting in and out of countless dreams. At around 3 or 4 in the morning, Chang Kun suddenly woke with a start. He reached out and felt the hard Kong mat beneath him. He let out a long breath, afraid that everything yesterday had only been a dream. He wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and got up to walk into the main room. Hearing the noise, Lu Meifan poked her head out from the east room. "Xiao Kun, why are you up so early?" "Mom, I can't sleep, so I'm getting up to go take a look below the foot of North Hill," Chang Kun answered softly. "Why are you running off to the foot of the hill instead of sleeping? You ate too much." Lu Meifan muttered a few words and lay back down. Chang Kun went into the small courtyard and walked to the shed where the family kept odds and ends. After rummaging around for a while, he dragged out a burlap sack. He planned to go to the foot of North Hill and see if he could catch some rabbits or something. He followed the dirt road through the village and out of it. At this hour, most of the villagers were still asleep, and he didn't see anyone else. After leaving the village entrance, he headed north and walked 3 or 4 li, taking more than 20 minutes before he finally reached the foot of the hill. Several patches of wasteland had been reclaimed there, planted with some corn and sorghum. The seeds had already sprouted, and the frail little shoots stood in the cracked earth, looking as though they wouldn't live long. Chang Wei remembered that in June, when the production brigade had just planted the crops, some people were so hungry they secretly dug up seeds from the fields to eat. As the village militia captain, His father had even organized crop guarding patrols for a while. Things hadn't reached the hardest point yet. If it got to 60, these seedlings would all be pulled up and eaten. Rural people really had it too hard. No matter the era. Even in later generations, in the city, people still use "you rural person" as an insult. It's simply outrageous. Some people really start cursing the moment they put down their chopsticks. As Chang Kun let his thoughts wander, he walked onto the field ridge outside the farmland at the foot of the hill. In later years, wild rabbits were rampant here, and there were also plenty of field mice. They all lived by gnawing on the crops at the foot of the hill. Back then, Chang Kun was all alone. In winter, when there was nothing to do, he would come to the foot of the hill with Chang Kun from the same village to set wire snares for rabbits. But at this time, other people didn't know there were so many wild rabbits and field mice here. It wasn't winter now, so rabbit tracks were hard to see. Daybreak was almost here, and most wild rabbits were hiding in their burrows resting. Whether rabbit holes or field mouse holes, they were all very well hidden and hard to find. But Chang Kun had the system and could sense prey, making it incredibly easy to search for wild rabbits and field mice hiding in their burrows. He walked along the field ridge, carefully sensing and searching. Normally speaking, rabbit holes and field mouse holes are usually not far from farmland, making it convenient for them to run into the fields to feed. He walked dozens of meters without detecting any animals. Chang Kun thought about it and felt he might be heading in the wrong direction. So he turned and walked toward the foot of the hill. This time, very quickly, Chang Kun sensed 2 rabbits lying in a burrow underground ahead. He tiptoed over and saw one entrance, then circled around nearby and found a total of 3 entrances. They say a crafty rabbit has 3 burrows, and it really is true. These 3 burrow entrances were not far apart. The 2 closer entrances were only 7 or 8 meters apart, while the farther one was more than a dozen meters away. Chang Kun found a large stone and blocked one of the entrances, then gathered some dry grass and leaves. He lit the dry grass and leaves and quickly stuffed them into the rabbit hole entrance. Before long, thick smoke billowed into the burrow. He hurried to the last entrance, opened the sack, and waited for the wild rabbits to run out. From his sensing, there was more than 1 rabbit in this burrow, so he absolutely couldn't let them escape. After 3 or 4 minutes, Chang Kun sensed the wild rabbits scrambling through the burrow, getting closer and closer to him. He held the sack wide open over the entrance, ready. Suddenly, 2 gray wild rabbits shot out of the hole and plunged straight into the sack. Inside it, the pair of hard-luck rabbits struggled desperately. But the only difference in the fate awaiting them was whether they'd be spicy or braised. Of course, at this moment, neither spicy nor braised was realistic. Not only was there not that many seasonings, there wasn't even any oil. These 2 rabbits would most likely end up as soup. Chang Kun was thrilled. He tied the mouth of the sack tightly, pinned the rabbits inside with his foot, flipped the hoe around in his hand, and with a few thumps, beat the rabbits to death. He poured out the wild rabbits for a look. The rabbit couple each weighed 5 or 6 jin. Chang Kun smiled faintly. Now the family would have meat for breakfast. Children in later generations, when they saw rabbits, would only say how cute they were. But when he got home later, if his younger sisters saw the rabbits, they would definitely say how fat and delicious they looked. Looking at the sky, if he headed home now, he would make it back just in time for breakfast. And he could kill 1 rabbit to eat with the family. Just as he was about to turn around and head home, Chang Kun sensed a prey animal ahead, staying still on the ground. Something on the ground in broad daylight definitely wasn't a wild rabbit or a field mouse from a burrow. What could it be? Chang Kun felt a bit expectant. He gently set down the sack and crept forward without making a sound. Slowly approaching a clump of grass, he found the prey right there in it. Chang Kun crouched down and slowly craned his head to look into the grass. It was a pheasant. He was already only 2 or 3 steps away from it. Chang Kun held his breath, suddenly kicked off with his leg, and threw himself at the pheasant. The pheasant was extremely alert. The moment it sensed something was wrong, it immediately flew up into the sky. But Chang Kun was already very close to it. The pheasant had only just started flapping when it met Chang Kun's Buddha's palm. Cluck, 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 cluck. Caught by him, the pheasant clucked in fright. Chang Kun laughed out loud. This pheasant meat was far tastier than rabbit meat. His little sisters were in for a treat. 1 pheasant and 2 wild rabbits were enough for the whole family to eat for a day or 2. With the sack on his back and the pheasant in hand, he walked along the road back to the village. As he passed by the small river outside the village entrance, the system sensed again that a small animal was slowly crawling along. Chang Kun dashed forward in 1 stride. When he got close, he discovered it was a grass turtle, clumsily crawling toward the riverbank. Chang Kun grinned. to still find something by the village entrance. The system really was pretty good. He pinned the grass turtle down with his foot and lifted it by the shell. The grass turtle was 20 centimeters long and weighed over 2 jin, just enough to make a pot of soup. He wondered what his younger sisters wanted to eat more, and whether they would drool with craving. With the sack on his shoulder, the pheasant in his left hand, and the grass turtle in his right, Chang Kun seemed to walk with a spring in his step. When he arrived outside his family courtyard, Chang Kun saw someone in the yard talking to his mother. It was a woman so unforgettable to Chang Kun that he wished he could kill her 100 times over. Qin Meru. In his previous life, it was because he married her that the Chang family was destroyed and the whole family met ruin. Even though last night, while lying on the Kong, he had already mentally prepared himself many times, telling himself not to cling too much to the hatred from his previous life. In this life, he had to first take care of his parents, younger sister, and elder sister. But at this moment, upon seeing Qin Meru again, he still trembled all over, unable to control himself. Qin Meru looked at Chang Kun through the small courtyard fence. When she saw the pheasant and grass turtle in his hands, she couldn't help swallowing. She had long forgotten what meat tasted like. Originally, her father and mother had sent her to sound out Chang Kun's attitude toward the bride price. But now, seeing the prey in Chang Kun's hands, she didn't know what to say. Judging by how obedient Chang Kun used to be to her every word, he would at least give her a chicken, right? Qin Meru thought to herself happily. Actually, even if the Chang family couldn't come up with that much bride price, if she could occasionally eat some meat with the Chang family, that would be pretty good too. She was very confident in her looks. And the young men from the surrounding villages would all take a few extra glances when passing by her. As for Chang Kun, she no longer wanted to bring up the bride price. Better to get a meal of meat first. What? You came to talk about the bride price? And no, that's not it. Qin Meru's voice grew softer and softer as she spoke. I just heard you came back home, so I came to see you. I was fired, so your family wants to break off the engagement? Chang Kun had already suppressed his emotions, and his voice was icy. The grudge from his previous life would be avenged slowly. In this life, the Qin family wouldn't get away. Killing the woman in front of him in one blow would be letting her off too easily. Better to... And no. Qin Meru became a little anxious. She didn't know what her mother had said to the Chang family. She hadn't planned to break off the engagement. Breaking off an engagement was no good for one's reputation. No matter how pretty she was, with the black mark of having a broken engagement once, finding a good family again would be incredibly difficult. Chang Kun sneered inwardly. You don't want to break it off, but I do. Unfortunately, breaking off the engagement required his parents and elders to step forward. He couldn't decide it himself. Do you have business or not? If not, get lost. Chang Kun adjusted the chicken and turtle in his hands and directly drove her away. When Lu Meifan saw the two talking, she had long since hidden in the main room. Qin Meru found it a little hard to believe. Was he driving her away? All this time, every time Chang Kun met her, he would rack his brains to find something to say to her, his eyes staring straight at her private parts. What was wrong this time? Just what had that mother of hers, Shi Jinxiang, said to provoke him? Chang Kun glanced sideways at Qin Meru and saw that she still refused to leave, her eyes constantly drifting toward the grass turtle and pheasant. He sneered inwardly. What nice dream are you having? You want to eat my pheasant, don't you? Or have your eye on my grass turtle head? There's nothing to say to you. Hurry up and get lost. Chang Kun's tone was indifferent, and he didn't want to say anything more to her. Qin Meru had never suffered such treatment before, and her chest heaved with anger. Seeing that she couldn't even get a bite of turtle head, she gave a cold snort, turned around, and stomped away hard, quickly disappearing from Chang Kun's sight. Lu Meifan poked her head out from the threshold of the main room to peek. Seeing that Qin Meru had already gone far away, she quickly walked up to Chang Kun and asked, Son, what did she come to say to you? Lu Meifan had never really approved of this marriage from the start. She had always felt that Qin Meru didn't look like someone fit for family life, but she couldn't overcome her son's infatuation with beauty and could only reluctantly agree. She didn't say much before leaving. I reckon she wanted to talk to me about the bride price, but I drove her off. Chang Kun said this with a cheerful grin. If he had directly hacked Qin Meru to death with one stroke, he would have had to pay with his own life too. Since I've been reborn, then let's take it slow. No one in this family looks like a good person. Lu Meifan glared at the departing Qin Meru. They weren't even mother-in-law and daughter-in-law yet, and she was already finding her displeasing. Oh my, Xiao Kun, where did you catch a pheasant and such a big grass turtle? Lu Meifan had been busy asking about her son and Qin Meru, and only then noticed the game in her son's hands. Xiao Qing, pour your brother some water. Lu Meifan took the things from her son's hands as she shouted toward the house. Carrying the pheasant and the grass turtle, she walked to the little storage shed to look for some rope to tie them up. They were both still alive, and if she didn't tie them up, she was afraid they'd run away. Hearing the noise, Changqing and Changmu ran into the little courtyard. Seeing a light sheen of sweat on their elder brother's forehead, Changqing went to pour her elder brother some cool boiled water, while Changmu fanned him with her little hands. Last night the two had followed their elder brother to catch cicadas and eat them, so now they were especially close to him. Chang Kun happily enjoyed the attentiveness of his two younger sisters, and only after waiting a while did he ask, Xiaoqing, Xiaomu, which of you wants to eat meat? Me. Me. The two answered in unison. Little Chang Xiu had short legs, so she only made it into the yard at this moment and came to her elder brother's side. Drooling, she said, "Big brother, I want some too." Chang Kun pinched Chang Xiu's little face and said with a smile, "Then Big Brother will give you meat to eat." Hearing the voices of the group, Chang Dashan knocked out his pipe and got down from the Kong in the east room. He thought to himself, could it be that Xiao Kun went to catch seasonal birds again? They hadn't even finished eating last night's yet. Chang Kun didn't keep everyone waiting long. He pulled a dead wild rabbit out of the burlap sack and placed it in front of his sisters. Good heavens, this wild rabbit is really fat. Where did you catch it? It was just killed, right, its father? Lu Meifan couldn't be bothered tying up the pheasant and grass turtle anymore. She widened her eyes, walked over, and reached out to touch the wild rabbit. Chang Dashan looked at the blood on the rabbit's head. It was obviously blood from being freshly killed. He felt the rabbit's soft belly and nodded. This is just the time when wild rabbits are at their fattest. Just look at the meat on this belly, all soft and plump. Son, where did you catch this? Chang Dashan was a bit astonished. He'd spent years roaming the mountains, and even if he wanted to catch rabbits, he could only shoot them with a bird gun. And his son had always been no good at whatever he did. So when had he become this capable? Oh, well, we get to eat rabbit meat. Chang Qing cried excitedly, running around Chang Kun, shouting and jumping. Then leaned in and planted a loud kiss right on her elder brother's face. Little Chang Xiu followed and squeezed up beside her elder brother, wanting a kiss too. Eat what? Save it to sell for money. Lu Meifan glared at the little girls. If this rabbit were taken to the supply and marketing cooperative in town, it could sell for more than 5 yuan. Think of how much oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, needles, and thread that could buy. How could she possibly let the little girls eat it? Chang Kun shook his head and dragged another wild rabbit out of the burlap sack, holding it up. Mom, there's another one. Lu Meifan's mouth fell open, and her eyes moved back and forth between the two wild rabbits, a little unable to believe it. After all, Chang Dashan had spent time in the mountains. He flipped over the rabbit's belly and asked, "Are these from the same litter?" Chang Kun nodded. One male and one female. Lu Meifan stood up, one wild rabbit in each hand, and weighed them in her hands. Then she burst out laughing. "Good son, how are you so capable, huh?" Chang Dashan had just wanted to say something when Lu Meifan beat him to it again. "You're much better than your father. Your father has never caught 2 wild rabbits at once." Chang Dashan. Wasn't that so? When Chang Dashan usually went into the mountains, he always used a bird gun to shoot wild rabbits. The rabbits he shot were covered all over with iron pellets, so they couldn't even be sold for a good price. Seeing that her son had caught these 2 wild rabbits by pulling them out of a burrow, with only a few wounds on their heads where they had been clubbed to death, Changqing looked at her mother cautiously. "Mom, there are 2 wild rabbits, let's eat one." Chang Mu and Chang Xiu crowded around their mother, touching the rabbits with their hands and looking at her ingratiatingly. They really wanted to eat meat too. Lu Meifan looked troubled. Seeing the little ones getting thinner and thinner, how could a mother not feel heartache? The truth was, there wasn't even enough grain to eat. So how could they afford meat? 1 gene of meat could be exchanged for 5 gene of coarse grain. Mixed with wild vegetables and eaten sparingly, it could last a long time. At critical moments, this was life-saving food. She thought for a moment, then hardened her heart and said, "Next time we catch some, I'll let you eat meat." Chang Dashan twitched the corner of his mouth. He had known it would be like this. Every time he got something in the mountains, it was always taken to be sold for money. But it was precisely because Lu Meifan was so frugal that she had been able to raise so many little ones in the family. The 3 little girls, Chang Qing, Chang Mu, and Chang Xiu, all pouted, but didn't dare say anything more. Lu Meifan happily went to put the rabbits into a burlap sack, planning to have Chang Dashan take them to the supply and marketing cooperative to sell after he got off work. Chang Kun stopped his mother and waved his hand. "Mom, what about the pheasant and the grass turtle?" "The pheasant? The grass turtle?" Several younger sisters spoke almost in unison. "Oh my, I almost forgot. Lu Meifan hurriedly turned around. The grass turtle was trapped under a broken porcelain basin, so it couldn't get away. The pheasant only had its feet tied together. She hadn't had time to tie its wings before she had rushed over to look at the rabbits. When Lu Meifan turned back, the pheasant was flapping its wings and trying to fly up, but with its feet tied, it couldn't get very high and only darted wildly around the yard. For a moment, the pheasant was dashing east and west, with feathers flying everywhere. The little girls were all screaming, "The pheasant! Don't run! Ah, it's over here! Hurry and catch it!" When the pheasant, panicked and fleeing blindly, ran into the main room and was finally captured alive by everyone's combined efforts, the family looked at one another and all burst out laughing. It had been a long time since they had been this happy. In 58, the production team had eaten up all the collective grain, and the communal canteen existed in name only. People could only go back to eating at their own homes. From that time on, smiles had rarely appeared on the faces of the Chang family. Most of the time, the whole family was worrying about how to fill their stomachs. They couldn't even manage a proper meal during the new year. And this morning, after her son Chang Kun made a trip to the foot of North Mountain, in just 2 or 3 hours he brought back 2 wild rabbits, 1 pheasant, and 1 grass turtle. It was like the newborn light of dawn. Although there still wasn't much brightness, it gave the Chang family hope for a better life. "Son, go kill the grass turtle so we can eat some meat." Lu Meifan gave a grand wave of her hand, putting on a bold and heroic air. In fact, she knew that a grass turtle didn't have much meat, and these days it basically couldn't be sold for much money. "Yes, ma'am." Chang Kun cupped his fists and accepted the order. At this moment, the Chang family's mood was incredibly relaxed. Knowing they were going to have meat to eat, Chang Qing, Chang Mu, and Chang Xiu were all yelling excitedly and jumping around in the yard. After being excited for a while, they calmed down. Chang Qing ran to the stove in a very fawning manner. "Mom, I'll help you tend the fire." When Chang Mu looked at her eldest brother, her eyes sparkled. She felt that Big Brother had changed so much. Before, Big Brother had worked in the city, but he had never brought her or their parents anything good to eat. A few days ago, Big Brother was dismissed from the city and stayed home all day with a gloomy face, and she didn't even dare talk to him. She felt that the current Big Brother was so good, so very, very good. "Mom, then I'll kill the grass turtle. Let's just tie up this pheasant and leave it in the yard. If it's in the house, it'll poop and stink." Chang Kun carried the grass turtle into the yard and placed it on a large stone slab. He stretched out his fingers and pressed hard inward on the turtle's hind legs, then used 2 fingers to hold down its front legs. And with an inward squeeze, the grass turtle's head was forced out. He pulled the turtle's head long and chopped down hard with the knife. Seeing Chang Kun let the turtle blood spill into the yard, Lu Meifan felt a bit pained. This blood spilling into the yard is such a waste. "Shoo, shoo, shoo. I'll kill it." She shooed Chang Kun aside. "Mom, tell me, if we don't become in-laws with the Qin family after all, will that work?" Chang Kun wanted to break off the engagement with the Qin family, and then slowly look for a chance to take revenge later. Back then, it was you who cried and shouted that you had to marry Qin Meru, saying no matter how much betrothal gift it took, you had to marry her. Why did you suddenly change your mind since yesterday? Lu Meifan shot her son a sidelong glance and made a couple of sarcastic remarks. Ahem, ahem. Back then I didn't know their family was asking for such an outrageous betrothal gift. The betrothal gift they want is enough for me to marry 10 or 8 little wives. Chang Kun blushed a little. In his previous life, he really had been blinded by lust, seeing only beauty and not understanding at all the saying that when taking a wife, one should choose virtue. Of course, if he had not lived again for a while, no one would have known that beneath that beauty was a venomous snake. Back then, as an 18-year-old young man, with combat power comparable to a teddy, it was perfectly normal to get carried away by beauty. It's not easy to handle. Our Chang family is also a respectable family, and we've already given them the betrothal gift. If we want to go back on it, where would we put our face? If the engagement is broken off, it'll be hard for you to find another marriage match later. From his old mother's tone, breaking off the engagement was possible. It just wouldn't look too good reputation-wise, and it would make marrying a little harder later. To Chang Kun, this was not an issue at all. He had already been reborn. Would he still worry about getting a wife? That would simply make his peers laugh their teeth out. "Mom, you clean this grass turtle. I'll go ask Dad." Chang Dashin came over, puffing on his brass pipe. "I heard everything. This can't be handled that way. If you want to break off the engagement, then how will our old Chang family face people? And how will you marry a wife later? Every day you're just coming up with one idea after another. Besides, if we really break off the engagement, then Qin family village will definitely cause trouble. I remember there was trouble once one year. Chang Dashan tilted his head as he recalled. 7 or 8 years ago, a young fellow from Liuqiao village broke off an engagement with a girl from Qin family village, and later that young fellow had both his legs broken by people from Qin family village. Like many rural women, Lu Meifan knew these bits of gossip like the back of her hand. Even though our family isn't afraid of those Qins, what if something bad happens? Chang Dashan pointed at Chang Kun. Settle down a bit for me. Chang Kun glared at his old dad, not knowing how to explain it to him. He couldn't exactly say, I came back reborn. And that Qin Meru and the Qin family stole the grain and caused you, mom, and little sister to starve to death. Then what do we do about them asking for so much betrothal gift? Chang Kun tossed the problem to his old dad. They're dreaming. Stall them. Once that girl gets older, their family will get anxious. Chang Dashan grinned. He had his own little scheme too. These words made Chang Kun feel irritated. He flung his hand and walked into the west room, lying sideways on the Kong as he thought of a plan. If it really came to it, he'd just cripple all the Qin family, cut off his parents' hopes. But then he also thought about slowly tormenting the entire Qin family. And for a moment, Chang Kun could not make up his mind. Just look at your son, every single day like this. Chang Dashan strolled around the yard with his hands behind his back. Now he's my son. Isn't he your son too? Lu Meifan jabbed at Chang Dashan with a retort. If you've got the guts, don't eat the grass turtle your son caught later. If a son shows filial respect to his father, why shouldn't the father eat it? The whole family bickered noisily as they chopped the soft-shell turtle into pieces and put it in the pot. Before long, the aroma began to rise from the pot. Mom, don't forget to add the mountain pepper. Chang Qing hovered by the stove, supervising. Big brother said just now to add some mountain pepper to the soft-shell turtle soup, saying it can get rid of the fishy smell. Got it. You won't go without your share. Once the fire burns down later, I'm going to roast a few more birds to eat. Chang Qing's mouth was never still, chattering nonstop. Chang Kun had been busy all morning, and his stomach had long been growling with hunger. He rested on the Kong with his eyes closed for a while, and finally the soft-shell turtle soup was ready. The soft-shell turtle weighed only a little over 2 jin in total. After removing the shell, there was probably less than 1 jin of meat left, and basically all the meat went into the mouths of the 3 little girls. Before Chang Kun came home, Lu Meifan had already cooked some wild vegetable mush, and that was supposed to be the family's breakfast. There were lots of wild vegetables in the mush and very little cornmeal. This cornmeal was so white at a glance that it was obvious a lot of corn had been added. Now that there was soft-shell turtle soup, the mush still couldn't be wasted. Chang Kun drank soup with his parents, gnawing on the turtle shell, head, and claws, eating the wild vegetable mush, and then picking up a few cicadas to stuff into his mouth, until his belly was swollen full. The old lady had put too much water in the soup. Son, here's what I'm thinking. Send that pheasant to your eldest sister. Our family has always had a hard time, and we've received plenty of care from your eldest sister. She gave birth to your eldest nephew only a few months ago, and we don't really have anything good to give her, so let's send her this pheasant you caught. What do you think? It was only because her son caught a bit more food today that she was this generous for once. Normally, how could she bear to part with it? Sure, why not? Come to think of it, I haven't even met my eldest nephew yet. Chang Kun didn't hesitate and agreed at once. Meanwhile, Qin Meru had already returned to the neighboring Qin family village. When she got home, she leaned against the doorframe, looking a bit absent-minded. How did it go, daughter? Shi Jinxiang tugged on her daughter's arm. Yesterday, she had gotten nowhere when she went to talk about the bride price, so now she was eager to know how her daughter had handled it. What do you mean, how did it go? Qin Meru was still dazed and didn't know how she had ended up back home. She looked at her mother with a confused face. The bride price. I told you to go talk about the bride price. What did that boy say? Shi Jinxiang was a little anxious, feeling that her daughter was acting strangely. Oh no, could that little beast have taken advantage of you? With a tense expression, she grabbed Qin Meru's hand and asked, what did you two do? What did we say? Only then did Qin Meru come back to herself. After she went there, she hadn't even said anything before being driven back. I didn't get to eat any turtle meat. I didn't get to eat any chicken either. If it were before, Chang Kun wouldn't have minded giving me a pheasant for free. What exactly did my mother say yesterday to provoke Chang Kun this much? Seeing the probing look in Shi Jinxiang's eyes, Qin Meru rolled her eyes irritably. Mom, what did you say to the Chang family yesterday? You made Chang Kun so angry. When I went today, I saw him carrying a pheasant in one hand and a big soft-shell turtle in the other. Fine if he didn't let me eat any pheasant, but he didn't even give me any soft-shell turtle. He even drove me away. Shi Jinxiang curled her lips, her voice vicious. I didn't say much, just brought up the bride price, and then I was beaten out. Chin Meru was still fuming. It's all your fault. I want to eat meat too. If it were before, Chang Kun would have long since held out big chunks of meat for me to eat. In the Chang family's main room, beside the 8 immortals table, Lu Meifan told Chang Kun to go visit his eldest sister. Chang Kun suddenly recalled scene after scene from his previous life. There was no need to say more about how his eldest sister took care of him. Every week she would bring him food, help clean up, and do mending. This continued until they were in their 60s. That was true sibling affection. After his eldest nephew grew up and became busy with work, he still never forgot to stop by his uncle's place whenever he went home. He would bring cigarettes and liquor, get some braised food, and have a few drinks with his old uncle while chatting. In his previous life, he had no way to repay them at all. In this life, now that he had the ability, he would definitely take much better care of his eldest sister. TSK. Chang Kun picked up the bowl, slurped the little bit of leftover soup from the bottom, raised the bowl slightly, and made a distant toast to his eldest sister and nephew from his previous life. Mom, later I'll go take another look below the foot of the mountain and see if I can catch a bit more. Tomorrow I'll bring it to eldest sister's home. Even better. Lu Meifan patted her son's shoulder, feeling proud of a son like this. TSK, as if the prey on that mountain could just be picked up at will. Chang Dashin wiped his mouth, getting ready to head to work at the production team. Look at your father. He can't even keep his mouth shut after eating meat. The 3 little girls were still gnawing hard on the bones. The bigger bones made slurping sounds as they sucked on them, while the smaller ones were bitten to pieces and slowly swallowed into their stomachs. It had really been too long since they'd eaten meat. The little girls didn't waste even the bones, and it was truly heartbreaking to watch. After resting for a while, Chang Kun drank 2 more big bowls of grass turtle soup. Feeling his strength return, then got up and went to the small shed to find a burlap sack and prepare to set out. Big brother, I want to go too. Chang Qing was chewing on a thin little bone in her mouth, reluctant to swallow it. Chang Mu also stood up, looking at Chang Kun eagerly. Although little Chang Xiu didn't know what her older brother and sisters were going to do, when she saw that both of her older sisters wanted to go, she also hurriedly stood up, spread her little hands wide, and wanted her big brother to carry her. Lu Meifan pulled little Xiu over in one motion and glared at Chang Qing and Chang Mu. Every day, I take your second sister, third sister, and youngest sister to dig wild vegetables near the woods a bit farther outside the village, and only then can we barely have enough for the whole family to eat. Even if Chang Kun caught a few prey today, in Lu Meifan's eyes this was not a long-term solution. They still needed grain and wild vegetables. Only then would she feel at ease. These days, no one's ever heard of any family eating meat until they're full. Chang Kun shook his head, showing that for now he couldn't rescue his younger sisters from this situation. He could only wait until he caught enough prey, before his mother and younger sisters could have an easier time. He went to the clutter shed and took 2 burlap sacks, then carried a hoe and walked out. Xiao Kun, hold on to the hoe carefully and don't lose it, Lu Meifan reminded him. In times like these, iron tools were precious things. The iron pot, hoe, and shovel at home were all secretly hidden by his mother during last year's steelmaking campaign, instead of being handed over. Kuinji. As he walked to the village crossroads, Chang Kun heard someone calling him. Turning his head to look, he saw it was Zhang Quan from the same village, and Chang Kun was overjoyed. In his previous life, Zhang Quan was Chang Kun's closest buddy. He was tall and strongly built, a few months younger than Chang Kun. When he was little, he had a fever and was on the verge of dying. When a passing Taoist priest changed his name to Zhang Quan, and only then did he survive. From then on, Zhang Quan became a bit simple-minded, but not stupid at all, just clumsy with words. The village children were unwilling to play with him, but when Chang Kun saw that he was willing to listen to him, he brought him along to play. He also liked calling him Kuinji. During those hardest years, there were many times when Chang Kun had nothing to eat and was so hungry he could only drink water. It was Zhang Quan who would give Chang Kun a little food from time to time. Although it wasn't much, sometimes half a rotten sweet potato, or a small potato, sometimes just a handful of wild greens, or half a bowl of black locust flowers. If not for these things, Chang Kun would probably have starved to death back then. After those hard years passed, at least people no longer went hungry. The 2 bachelors, Chang Kun and Zhang Quan, often got together to drink and play cards, going down to the river to catch fish in summer, and heading into the mountains in winter to set snares for rabbits. They were as close as real brothers. Until one summer, when Zhang Quan tried to save a child from the same village who had fallen into the water and never came back up again. Now, seeing Zhang Quan so suddenly, Chang Kun was a little emotional. He rushed over, patted him on the shoulder, and immediately asked, "Got anything going on?" If not, come with me to catch wild rabbits. Nothing. Chang Kun scratched the back of his head. I remember your family has a slingshot, right? Go get it. Chang Kun remembered that Chang Kun was very skilled with a slingshot. Hey, without asking any questions, Chang Kun went home, fetched the slingshot, and left with Chang Kun. The two of them soon arrived at the foot of the mountain, where someone was skulking about suspiciously. Yo, isn't this Kun? Where are you headed? It was Jin Sanjia from the village. Before Chang Kun got a job, he and Jin Sanjia used to get along very well. Both were the kind who didn't like working, idling around the village all day, teasing cats and walking dogs, doing nothing. Later, when Chang Kun went to work in the city, every time he came back to the village, Jin Sanjia would trail behind him, calling him Brother Kun over and over. Chang Kun really enjoyed that feeling. Every time he brought back something tasty from the city, he would share it with Jin Sanjia. His own parents and little sister didn't even get any. Recently, after Chang Kun was fired and returned home, once Jin Sanjia found out, Brother Kun turned into Kun. He also spread the news of the firing everywhere. And when it reached Qin family village, it led to the Qin family demanding a higher bride price. Hey, don't go, Kun. Are you guys here to grab some cornstalks to eat too? Chang Kun and Jin Sanjia had often gone into the fields before to take things to eat. Chang Kun rolled his eyes and ignored him. Avoiding the places he had already searched that morning, he headed in another direction. This time, with Chang Kun accompanying him, Chang Kun decided to catch a few field mice. Field mouse meat was much tastier than rabbit, and field mouse burrows usually stored grain, so they definitely couldn't be overlooked. In less than 2 minutes, Chang Kun stopped in front of a small hole. Cricket. This was the nickname Chang Kun had given Chang Kun, and he had called him that ever since they were kids. This is a field mouse hole. There are a few field mice inside. Go find some firewood and smoke them out. Field mouse, mint of vole. The meat of this thing was tender and flavorful, though you had to get past the mental barrier. But in times like these, who would dare say rat meat couldn't be eaten? They'd see whether they'd get beaten to death. Hey, Chang Kun moved quickly. Chang Kun found another opening to this field mouse nest, and by the time he had spread open the mouth of the sack and set it in place, Chang Kun had already gathered a big armful of dry grass. Chang Kun lit the fire to smoke out the field mice, while Chang Kun held open the sack and waited for them to come out. Oh my, these two are actually trying to smoke out field mice. This is killing me. If a trick a 3-year-old could pull off can catch field mice, I'll eat the field mice alive. Seeing what the two were doing, Jin Sanjia burst out laughing. With this, you think you can catch field mice? Chang Kun turned and glared at Jin Sanjia. If you've got nothing to do, then get lost. Want some field mouse droppings to eat? Chang Kun also shot Jin Sanjia a fierce glare. But honestly, he didn't quite believe it would be that easy to catch field mice. Even the village children knew how to smoke them out. But most holes didn't actually have field mice inside. Even if there are field mice, if you don't block all the exits, the mice will still escape, making it all for nothing. Brother Kun just simply blocked the hole and then smoked it with smoke, and that would catch the field mice? If it were that simple, the villagers would have stopped lacking meat long ago. Just as Chang Kun was letting his mind run wild, as the smoke drifted into the field mouse hole, Chang Kun sensed the agitation of the mice inside, and one by one they crowded toward Chang Kun's side. Suits you, the ground rats are running over there. Get ready. Chang Kun stared wide-eyed at the hole, but saw nothing. Just as he was about to turn his head to speak to Chang Kun, out of the corner of his eye he saw several black little creatures suddenly dart out. Holy shit. Ground rats. Brother Kun. Ground rats. Chang Kun's voice had gone shrill. Chang Kun was staring at the sack in shock, unable to believe that they had caught field mice so easily just like that. Although he had clearly seen the field mice run into the sack and had heard their squeaking, he still found it a little hard to believe. In the past, he had followed others to catch field mice before, and usually not even once out of 10 tries would they catch any. Now, following Chang Kun, they had caught field mice in one go. For a moment, he stood there frozen. Chang Kun found Chang Kun's expression amusing. In his previous life, it was Chang Kun who had taught him how to catch field mice, snare rabbits, and catch fish and shrimp by hand. Jin Sanjia had originally been standing off to the side making snide remarks, waiting to see a joke. Previously, he and Chang Kun had hit it off, and the two of them used to loaf around the village causing mischief. Later, when Chang Kun went to work in the city, he willingly demoted himself to Chang Kun's lackey, flattering him and tagging along for free food and drink. After that, when Chang Kun was fired, he could no longer mooch off him, so he wanted to pay back all the humiliation of his former servility in full. It was precisely he who had been secretly spreading the news of Chang Kun's dismissal. Today, Seeing Chang Kun again leading the village fool to smoke out field mice, he was delighted. Could it be that Chang Kun had become stupid too? Bringing the village fool along to do the kind of stupid thing only a 3-year-old child would do? Then he heard by his ear the village fool Chang Kun cry out in surprise at the sight of the ground rats. What? Ground rats? How is that possible? Could that fool Zhang not even recognize a ground rat? He hurried over to Zhang Quan's side, lowered his head, and saw the field mice jumping up and down inside the sack. Jean Sanjia's mood was exactly like the mood of the 5 field mice in the sack, completely dumbfounded. Hearing the commotion over here, Chang Kun rushed over in a few quick steps and patted Zhang Quan on the shoulder. "Xiu, well done. Why don't you hurry and dig up some ground rat droppings? Jean Sanjia is still waiting to eat them." "Huh?" Jean Sanjia froze for a moment, then jumped up and cursed. "You're the one who eats shit. Your whole family." Before he could finish cursing, bang! Chang Kun kicked him in the lower belly, sending Jean Sanjia sprawling onto the field ridge. "Keep your mouth shut." Chang Kun didn't even look at him. Jean Sanjia was the type who bullied the weak and feared the strong. Before, people like him would have been the perfect candidates for traitorous puppet soldiers. At this moment, his lower belly ached sharply from Chang Kun's kick, yet he didn't dare make a sound. He got up and limped away. Only after walking more than 100 meters did he turn around and glare at Chang Kun and Zhang Quan through gritted teeth, throwing out a threat. "Just you wait. If I don't kill you." Zhang Quan excitedly pulled the field mice out one by one and stomped them to death, then crouched on the ground to look at them. Even now, he still found it a little hard to believe. Chang Kun thought back a little to the route the field mice had taken when they escaped and walked to the farthest position between the 2 burrows. "Xiu, dig downward here. Most field mice granaries are at the far end of the burrow." He handed the hoe to Zhang Quan. He himself wasn't very good at farm work, but Zhang Quan was very skilled at farm work, and digging with a hoe came easily to him. As Zhang Quan dug downward, in just 5 or 6 minutes, Zhang Quan shouted, Brother Kun, Brother Kun." Meanwhile, at Chang Kun's home, Lu Meifan hummed a little tune as she skinned the wild rabbits in the yard. The weather was quite hot in summer now, and if she didn't skin them quickly, the meat would spoil easily. The wild rabbits looked quite plump, but after skinning them and removing the entrails, each one weighed only a little over 2 jin. If the bones were removed too, even less would be left. As the old saying goes, eating rabbit won't make you gain weight. That only means rabbit meat is low in fat and not likely to make you fat. But these days, having meat to eat at all was already good enough, so who would be picky? Lu Meifan felt the belly meat of the skinned rabbits and said to herself with a smile, "Well now, the rabbits at this time of year are actually pretty fat. We'll keep the entrails for dinner tonight and make those little rascals drool with envy." The 2 wild rabbits were quickly cleaned up. Lu Meifan tossed one skinned rabbit into a large water vat, chilling it in the water so that the meat could stay fresh for at least a few days. She then took out a large chunk of salt about the size of a fist from the stove counter and gently tapped it with the back of a knife. Each time a small piece broke off, she crushed it with the knife and carefully rubbed it onto the rabbit meat. This was the coarse salt of this era. It didn't require ration coupons, so you could buy it freely. People couldn't do without salt. As for fine salt, that existed too, but it required coupons and was comparatively expensive. The remaining rabbit meat was thoroughly rubbed with salt and hung in the cool shade of the main room to air dry, so that it could slowly turn into cured meat. These days, even getting a few bites of cured meat counted as celebrating the new year. Lu Meifan looked up at the rabbit meat, and the more she looked, the happier she became. At the foot of the North Mountain, the entrance to the field mouse burrow had already been dug open. Chang Kun and Zhang Quan were both bent over, peering above the field mouse hole. Yellow soybeans and golden corn lay inside the hole, drawing their eyes. The field mouse's grain store had been dug out. Zhang Quan knelt on the ground, his palms trembling as he cupped a handful of soybeans and brought them under his nose for a deep sniff. This was grain. In these times, grain was even more precious than gold in people's hearts. How long had it been since he had eaten pure grain? Even Zhang Quan himself could hardly remember. Carefully carrying the soybeans and corn onto the burlap sack, Zhang Quan still wasn't satisfied. He swung the hoe and dug back and forth through the place where the field mouse had stored its grain, picking up every single grain until it was spotless. He squatted in front of the burlap sack, looking at the soybeans and corn with an extremely reverent expression. "Brother Kun, these soybeans and corn together must weigh 5 or 6 jin, right? There are still lots of field mice around here. Let's do a few more nests today." Chang Kun appeared fairly calm. With the system, catching a field mouse and digging up a granary was easy work. "Hey," Zhang Quan answered extremely loudly. The few of them walked another 200 meters forward, and Chang Kun sensed another nest of field mice. And it felt like there were many presences inside, a big family nest. Tsiu, get ready to light the fire. Chang Kun searched carefully and found that this field mouse nest actually had 9 entrances, which was simply outrageous. Chang Kun led Zhang Quan to block the field mouse burrow entrances one by one with large stones, leaving only 2 openings, one for smoking them out and one to wait for the field mice to crawl out. Brother Kun, let me catch the field mice instead. Okay, you do it. Hold the sack open and cover the cave entrance. Chang Kun was in charge of lighting the fire to smoke out the field mice, while Zhang Quan waited at the other entrance to bag them. As the fire was lit, smoke slowly poured into the field mouse burrow. The burrow was very large, and for the moment the smoke did not drive the field mice out. Chang Kun frowned, turned around and found some half-dry, half-damp grass to cover the burning firewood. The entrance to the field mouse burrow immediately became thick with billowing smoke. In his perception, a large nest of field mice surged toward the entrance on the other side. Tsiu, watch out, the field mice are rushing over. Zhang Quan pressed his lips together nervously and stared wide-eyed at the cave entrance. In the blink of an eye, one field mouse after another fled out of the hole and crazily poured into the sack. Oh damn, holy shit, why are there so many? Brother Kun, there are so many in this nest. Zhang Quan shouted until his voice cracked. Hearing Zhang Quan's cry of alarm, Chang Kun was just about to run toward him. Suddenly, a field mouse the size of a wildcat burst out of the burrow with burning firewood on its head. Holy shit, it's so big. Did the field mouse turn into a spirit?